Hi everybody, I'm Ian Knowlson. I'm here with Simplicity today to do our last in our series of growth surgeries. Today we're talking about Brexit and what next for recruitment. I'm conscious that this will sit for time immemorial on YouTube, but actually today or this week is Brexit week, in which the UK leaves the EU. So today we're going to talk about what next, and to those of you in recruitment in the UK, what's your next move? Because obviously that's quite key. Just in case there are one or two of you who aren't aware who I am, my name's Ian Knowlson. I've been in recruitment for over 30 years. In fact, this year is my 35th year. I set up a recruitment agency and consultancy business 8 years ago called Selling Success. I'm an NLP master practitioner, and we work with about 20 to 30 recruitment agencies annually. And we have an outstanding record of helping those agencies grow and improve their gross profit and their net profit. And ultimately, we help them create 3 to 5 year growth plans. And typically, they're all achieving 30 to 300% growth year on year. Feel free, of those of you who are watching, to connect with me on LinkedIn. I've had about 6 or 7 people in the last week alone contact me about last week's growth video, which was on the top 5 sectors in recruitment. But as I say, today we're going to talk about Brexit, what next for recruitment. So here we go. So just covering off a slide which we put up last week, I anticipate there being a Brexit boom, which is a bit bold, but essentially, why am I predicting this? Well, I think the first thing to say is we have a degree of certainty of what's happening with Brexit. On the 31st of January this year, we will leave the European Union. Whatever your views, rightly or wrongly, Remainer or Brexit, the reality is we will leave, and it's an opportunity. We must embrace it with both hands and create what the opportunity is. We now have a stable government for the next 4 or 5 years. Boris Johnson's government have an 80-seat majority, so it allows them to give a degree of comfort and certainty as to what their plans are. Again, rightly or wrongly, but we have to deal with that. There is, however, pent-up demand within the UK. There's been a large number of businesses, both inside the UK and outside in Europe and America and the Far East, who are looking to invest in Britain. And I'm already hearing and seeing that is taking place. Our recruitment agency partners that we work with at Selling Success, the clients of Simplicity, are all telling us that there is now starting to be a pickup in certain sectors in the UK, degree of certainty, and I think construction, as we mentioned last week, are one of the first sectors to benefit from that. I'm hearing of a 5 to 10% improvement in demand for construction labour in this month of January alone, and that seems to be going on into the next February and March for the rest of the quarter. The UK government has committed to spend £100 billion over the next 5 years on infrastructure projects, which will again lead to that demand improve in engineering and energy and digital infrastructure. There's a whole raft of projects taking place there. I think the US-Canadian trade deal will help also improve aggregate demand across the world globally. And it's interesting, I'm not going to make any major comment about this, but the European Union growth rate is now lower than the UK. And so the UK, as we come into the post-Brexit era, we will have an opportunity to take advantage of some of the global markets that will be opening up. So I expect the growth to get stronger this year, and hoping that all of you will benefit from that. So, what are the global conditions that we're currently operating in? Well, in the last 2 to 3 years, we've moved away from there being skills issues, skills demand, to now skills crisis, and I heard only last week of the skills emergency. There are already acute shortages across the world in technology, engineering, healthcare, finance and construction. But a report published last week by Mercer estimates that more than 1 billion people, that is a third of all the people in work on the planet, their jobs are likely to be transformed by technology in the next decade. So the skills gaps that technology is going to generate in all of these existing sectors is huge. And it's a great opportunity for the UK recruiters, who are among some of the most agile and innovative and creative in the world. And I've worked across Europe, I've worked in the UK, I worked for a period of time for a major international recruiter, and I can tell you that our recruitment industry in the UK is one of the strongest on the whole planet. So there's an opportunity for you to take advantage of that, and we'll come on and talk about how you might do that in a minute. So what are the conditions in the UK? Well, a bit of information from CIPD report last year. They pointed out that 67%, that's roughly 2/3 of all employers in the UK, are now reporting skill shortages. That's up from about 50% 2 years previously, and has impacted all sectors of the UK economy, whether it's the low-skilled applications down from 25% to 16% last summer, to the medium-skilled applications for a job down from 9 to 10, and high-skilled applications down from 8 to 5. I know when I was doing IT and engineering recruitment, we ran an advert for permanent staff. We needed at least 20 applicants to be confident we could fill a job, assuming they were of the right calibre. I'll be honest with you, I would think if you're only getting 5 or 8 applications, you're really going to struggle. Hence why the opportunity for UK recruitment businesses to support the UK economy in the growth that we're hoping is going to take place is there. So that's the background behind Brexit and what's happening. So the conditions for niche recruiters to succeed are quite strong. What Brexit will do initially in the UK, in my opinion, and I think all the major commentators are saying the same, it will reduce the availability of skilled European workers. Already we've seen from the Office of National Statistics back end of last year, large numbers of European workers leaving the UK to return to parts of Eastern Europe. Part of the reason for that is quite simply, it's nothing to do with xenophobia, it's to do with the exchange rate. They can no longer get as much money for their UK pound back home as they were doing 2 or 3 years ago. So the economic incentive to work here and send money back is disappearing or has disappeared. So that means that in those sectors where demand exceeds supply and we have good availability or good levels of supply in the UK, what you will see and what we have seen is wage and pay rates increasing. In construction, the rates have gone up quite substantially, well above the rate of inflation, and that obviously is having an impact on some of the employees in that sector. So what this has created is an opportunity for those of you that are what we call niche recruiters. That means you work in a specific vertical, you get to know what are the rare skills in that vertical, and you market them out, whether that's as temp, as freelance contractors, or whether that's as permanent. So that's the conditions that we're talking about. How is that affected by Brexit? Let's move forward and look at that. Okay, so the positive, it's going to create you some opportunities. Where the rates rise, where you have a pool of loyal workers, that gives you the opportunity to create more margin. It allows you to create better rates of pay for your workers. That's a great positive opportunity. It's going to increase demand for your temp and contract staff. Why temps? I think, Vicky, you got a question earlier from one of our listeners, and the question was, why does temp demand rise? Well, there's 2 reasons for that. The first reason is people are reluctant in these still uncertain times to go out and recruit permanent staff. And secondly, the permanent staff themselves are not that keen to change jobs. So what will impact the economy, what will pick up first in the economy is demand for temp and contract labour. As I was saying, some of my clients in the construction sector have already noticed a 10% increase, in some cases 15%, this January for labour over where they were 12 months ago. Now, I'd like to think that's across the whole sector, but it has been pointed out it could be to do with the things that I've got our clients to do and we've talked about here. But that's a really important thing. There's an opportunity there. Agency staff, if you've got good staff working for you who have good sourcing skills, who know how to find that niche, hard to find candidates, if you've got those people, this is a great opportunity for you to go out and place more people, get more market share. And where you've got variable rates, when the rates in the market start to rise, as long as you can pass that rate rise on to your client, that's great. But if we'll talk in a minute, if you've got a fixed rate, that's going to create you a problem. It allows you to exploit your competitors' weakness where they have relationships with their clients. This massive change, this impacts on the availability of skills, these upward rising pressures, that is going to put pressure on your competitors' relationships. That creates an opportunity, if you've got the right proposition, to go in and to actually exploit that and to win market share, to take clients off your competitors. And obviously it allows us with the ability to create new commercial arrangements with the Americans, Australia, the Middle East and Asia. It allows us to open up new markets in those parts of the world. So what you have here is tremendous opportunity. It is there for you, as the Latin saying says, carpe diem, to seize the day and see if you can maximize that. So what are the threats? Okay, so where there's a worker shortage, you may find that if your labour force is transient, you will struggle. You will struggle to satisfy your client's demand if you haven't got a loyal labour force. If you've got employees or recruiters within your teams that are weak, have weak sourcing skills, by that I mean they just put an advert on a website and they just wait for the candidates to come in. They are going to really struggle because the high caliber candidates will no longer be looking on job boards. They will be picked up by proactive recruiters who are out there targeting them, gaining connections, building networks themselves. They will get access to those workers and you will cease to have them. So your worker relationships, your relationship with your contractors, your workers and your candidates is fundamental to you maximising the opportunity that Brexit offers to you and minimising the threat that it could potentially represent. Another problem will be where you've got signed agreements with your clients with fixed rates of pay. Okay, so in those scenarios when the rates start to rise because the demand for workers, whether it's in IT, engineering, even if it's logistics, healthcare, if you can't increase your rates of pay, you will lose workers. Okay, we all know, those of you who do temp work will know this, you're telling me all the time, the workers will move for as little as 50p an hour. In the London markets of construction last year, people were changing jobs for as little as 25, 30p an hour. In some cases, it was rising weekly in things like scaffolding and electricians and bricklayers. So people need to respond to that market. If you have a fixed rate of supply to your client, you need to get out there, you need to talk to them now, take the opportunity at this time of year to talk about rate increases to do with the guaranteed rates of pay in the UK at the moment, the minimum wage and the London waiting, whatever it is. Those of you who've got European offices, you're going to have challenges because we've already talked that the European economy isn't doing as well. Our ability to work with Europe is going to be dependent upon the deal that Boris Johnson and his government do with the EU later this year. And provided there's an agreement and we've got the ability to continue to move across the European Economic Area, so the EEA includes places like Switzerland and Norway, which are not part of the European Union, then that's fine. But if you don't, and we don't, you won't even be able to go and work in European sites without a visa. This is something that a report came out only today. I've seen an article that's in Global Recruiter about a report, I believe, from a company called Sterling, which points that only 5% of HR professionals totally understand the rules around the right to work permits and everything else, which will come into effect as after we leave the European Union. That is 5%. So there's a huge opportunity for you to help your clients understand that whole maelstrom of complexity around where they work. There's another threat, which is ultimately we have an economic downturn. So those are a couple of threats there. Another one is we are going to see a further reduction in foreign workers, not only from the EU, but from outside the EU. And we're going to have a point system, an immigration point system. So that's going to reduce the availability of the worker pool full stop. The net effect of that will be that it's finding candidates is going to become increasingly harder. It's possible that there's going to be a further reduction in demand for permanent staff unless the uncertainty ends And let's face it, in the last 2 years, we've got no guarantee that any government can find an agreement with the EU quickly. And all the indications are, from the Europeans' point of view, they don't think a deal can be done this year. And Boris has said, well, we're not waiting any longer. So the reality is that uncertainty may impact people changing jobs, as we've already talked about, and employers employing more staff. So that will have a positive effect on demand for temporary and contract staff. And the threats for you as business owners will be to your clients and your worker relationships. So you're going to have relationships already, and unless you work on those and build on those, that's going to create you some issues. Okay, so there is a risk at the end of this year, then we get to December and maybe even to January next year, where we actually leave the European Union, because at the moment we're in a transition period without an agreement. So the no-deal Brexit, as it was called previously, means we would leave on World Trade Organization terms, and a lot of the indications are that we could lose as much as 25% of our exports. Now, I would like to think that over the next few months that UK exporters will start to mitigate that, and will start to look at the opportunities outside the European Union. But there will be if that happens, it could be an economic impact. You could find your temps being terminated. You could find that permanent recruitment virtually stops. In 2011, those of us who were in the recruitment industry will remember when the Twin Towers were hit by those planes, permanent recruitment literally almost stopped for like 2 to 3 months until the world could come to terms with what had happened. And that could happen. I'm not saying it will. I don't want to be scaremongering, but you need to be aware that there's a risk. It could take 6 months to recover from that kind of shock. And it will, for those of you who do temporary recruitment, it will impact your credit terms with your clients. You'll find clients don't pay. You'll find clients default. And those of you in industries which are not known for their liquidity, like construction, you could struggle. Okay. Also, UK workers will need work permits to travel to Europe. That includes Ireland, Germany, France. I'd just like to share with you an experience I had in November last year. I was booked to do a training course for a construction business with offices in Ireland and the UK, and I was due to fly to Dublin on the first week of November. As we approached the 31st cliffhanger of a Brexit no-deal scenario, it was pointed out to me that I would not be allowed to deliver the training course in Dublin unless I had a work permit, or unless the UK had agreed some movement of worker agreement. And as a result of that, we had to delay our training course. I can remember, it's a long time ago, mind you, before we even joined the European Union, we used to be given cards when we went to certain European countries, which would state what your purpose was there, your passport number, and your name, and various other details. And I remember landing and seeing business people being questioned extensively by the immigration officers in places like Spain and France and Germany and the Netherlands. And that could be us in 12 months' time. As I point out, only 5% of HR people have realised the impact that this could have. So this could be a huge disruption. Okay? I don't want to build it up as though it's something big, but you need to be aware of it, because there are things we can do to fix some of these issues. And I'd like to come on and talk about that. Okay, so overall, these are the threats and these are the opportunities. So, worker shortages. I would encourage you, those of you who are planning to be in business for the next 2 or 3 years, to start to mitigate some of these threats. Worker shortages is an easy one. You need to find new alternative sources of workers, whether that's temporary, contract or permanent. You need to improve any poor recruiter skills you have. You need to invest in training in Q1, at the worst Q2 of this year. But you need to do it now so that come the end of the year, if there is an impact, your people have the ability to work through it and to source good quality, high caliber candidates. You may want to look at whether you're in the right sector. Are you providing hard to find skills, or are you just providing low quality, temporary, unskilled workers that can, technically speaking, be found by anyone? Are you operating fixed rates of pay with your clients? If you are, very simple. Take the opportunity for the increase in the minimum wage in April. Sit down with your clients, talk about these issues, talk about them now, talk about your willingness to work with them. There are mechanisms and ways you can come up with a fair rate of pay for your client, but you need to have these conversations now in a non-emotional, unpressured way, rather than waiting for the crisis to happen and say, I can't fill these 4 jobs because you're only willing to pay £20 an hour and the market rate is 25. So please have those conversations now. Permanent recruitment may stop, okay? Diversify. Look to do temp. Look to do contract. Talk to simplicity. A lot of people are put off doing temporary work because of the complexities, of the legalities, but also of the cash flow. That's why having a growth partner like Simplicity is really, really important, because they can help you exploit that, work through that. You will probably find some of your clients, you may send them candidates who are permanent workers, and the client says, we're not too keen to take them on a permanent. Will they take a temp job? So that's a way to do it. Talk to the guys at Simplicity, talk to your account management team, and they will help you. Client relationships. Again, use this as an opportunity. Go out and see your customers, those where you've got workers. Get close to them, sit down with them face to face. Talk about the impact that this could have on the economy. You've got some of my blogs. If you don't want to use my blogs, in there are some plenty of references to reports from, I mentioned CIPD, there's also the Chartered Institute of Builders, there's also Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, there is the Institute of Engineering, there's EU skills forums on data scientists, cyber, they're all in there. And if you have a problem, drop Vicky or myself an email and we will get you some more reports. But have those conversations. Upskill your work, your recruiter skills to have these relationships with clients. But this is a positive. If you take positive action, you can mitigate and reduce some of these risks, which means you can take advantage of these opportunities. When the rates rise, you'll be able to improve your rates of pay to your workers and increase your margins. When the demand increases, you can use the poor recruiter skills which you've overcome to source good quality candidates. And you can take advantage of that to increase your market share. So your staff need to have good sourcing skills. You can use this to enter new markets. Look at new markets both in the UK and elsewhere. Where are the pinch points? Where are the skills sectors in your market that you're working in that you can actually overcome and exploit and improve? Those of you who have strong relationships with your customers will thrive. This will be an ideal opportunity to show them the value that you bring as a recruitment partner. I talk about relationship management and how to do business development. We talk on one of the slides about how you move your relationships from being just an ordinary transactional supplier to what I call a trusted partner, or even the ultimate, which is a strategic partner. This is a great opportunity to move your relationships, show your clients why you are worthy of being a trusted partner. It's also an ideal opportunity to grab market share. Have your consultants look at all the clients in your region or in your area that you want to win where you've not been able to get into. Start ringing them, get meetings, do business development calls. If you're in temp work, do backdrops. We know how to do this. Exploit your competitor's weakness. Seek an opportunity to supply. Seek meetings. Those who've got weak relationships, those agencies that aren't able to do all of this, if you can do all of this, overcome all of this, and you've got these opportunities, you can move forward. This is an ideal opportunity to grow. It really, really is. Seize it as an opportunity to take your business to the next level. Okay, so what next? IR35. We discussed this last week. I'm just going to cover off this slide. IR35 is a rule that's been around for a number of years, but the government are changing how they apply the rules. Instead of going after the personal service companies of the contractors, they are now going to go after the end client or the employer that is employing the worker, and saying that if the worker is not deemed to be within deemed to be within IR35, that client is liable for the tax. And that's had a fundamental change on the supply chain. Large numbers of UK Organisations like HSBC, I believe a number of the other high street banks, some of the major employees in retail have said we will take no contractors through us beyond the 1st of April. So you need to have these conversations with your client. The government are reviewing this, but I understand that they're not going to change it. This is going to come into effect, and you need to be aware of this. 30 to 50% premiums exist for the UK workers that will be thrown out or will be caught in this trap to go and work outside the UK. Those in IT, engineering, energy, financial services, healthcare, project management, they all exist in places like the Middle East, the Far East, Australia, Europe, and the USA. So for me, it's an opportunity. It's up to you to decide where you put your good, skilled workers you have great relationship with. It's an opportunity to attack new markets. Okay? I gather there are literally hundreds of international businesses that are now willing to take our workers outside the UK, and there are other businesses like Simplicity that can help you do that. So again, another opportunity. Please look at it. Please take advantage of it. If you want to drop me an email or whatever, link with me on LinkedIn or go through Vicky. I don't mind. Finally, I'd like to just mention the Accelerator Growth Plan which we have set up. It's a 2-day workshop run over. It's a 6-day workshop running 2-day chunks over 3 weekends on a Friday and a Saturday. It'll involve a series of presentations, some talks, an opportunity to meet some real industry professionals, some experts, not just myself, but learn how to grow your business. And there will be 3 one-on-one coaching sessions where you can work through actions and create your own vision for your business. We'll be introducing you to our growth diagnostic, which will help identify the inhibitions or the inhibitors in your business to prevent you from growing. And we'll be able to work through those in your one-on-one coaching sessions. If you're interested, please contact Vicky. If you're a Simplicity customer, there is potentially an incentive, I believe, but you'd need to contact Vicky in marketing or even your account manager. Our diagnostic is based upon the 7 Ps, so we would be looking at things like the vision and the purpose for your business, your people, what's your proposition, your profitability. We'd be looking at your productivity, the market and playing field you're operating in, and your overall business platform. And platform, we mean things like Simplicity. What's your back office function like? What's your credit control like? Because all of these things are really important, and all of these things are fundamental to a high growth, high performing business, the likes of which we talked about earlier. Okay, a couple of clients we've talked about previously. This is Alpha Recruitment in Sheffield. When we started working with them in 2013, they had an MD with 2 staff. He turned over 1.2 million. They were in a rented room, 1 room in a shared office, and their average margin was £1.55 an hour, and the MD was personally responsible for 80% of the business. Last year, this year, the MD now has 10 staff. He now has a manager. They turn over 7.5 to 8 million. I'm not going to be specific. They have a purpose-built office that they own. Their average margins are £1 an hour more, and the MD doesn't deliver any business himself personally. That's the kind of transformation we're talking about. That's how we're taking this kind of client to the next level. They're in construction. This is new staff. They're in Chepstow. They're a Simplicity customer. We created them a vision, a 2020 vision, as we called it, 3 years ago in 2017. We introduced a staff bonus scheme, new website, social media strategy. We did customer service reviews with their existing customer base, and we launched a driver division. They've now got a new commercial and sales directors, and the MD is now taking a step back from the business and runs a more strategic role, and their gross profit and revenues are up 200% in 2 years, and there are plans for that to double again in the next 12 to 18 months. So that is the kind of growth we're talking about. That's the kind of experience we've got. I'd love to talk to you about maybe how we can do that with your company. But for now, thank you very much indeed. Please drop me some questions if you've got any on LinkedIn or via Vicky at marketing@Simplicity or the account manager. Finally, this is the last one in the series. Vicky and I have just been talking about what happens next. In the spring of this year, we have some plans to take our growth surgeries potentially on the road. We'll be sending some exclusive invites out for people to join us in person. There are a maximum of up to 20 people in a room at the same time, because we would look to talk about some real personal issues that affect their business. We will be taking some of these issues that we've talked about and perhaps taking them to the next level. We'll probably look at the Brexit impact as we move into the spring and the warmer weather. If you've enjoyed this, please send me some feedback. I've already had about 10 or 15 emails in the last few weeks on this. I'd like to hear more. If you want to engage and you want to talk more about any of the issues or topics that we've raised in all of the series, please let Vicky or myself know. Thank you very much for listening. Wish you a very successful 2020, and I hopefully we're going to get a chance to meet you sometime later this year. Thanks very much. Take care.